So the scrolling functions inside of Pro Tools are pretty simple, and if we're zoomed in pretty tight on stuff, you'll notice that we have the typical scrolling options at the bottom of the screen here, for back and forth, and then the same up top. This one always becomes a constant because as we add more tracks, we really need to be able to do that. If we hit Command equals and we go to the edit or the mix window, you'll see that we have another need for scrolling back and forth and scrolling up and down. But one other thing, as we look at the edit window, that becomes super important is we have to look at what kind of options we have set up for scrolling in general, because our whole edit window needs to do something when the timeline moves from left to right. So if we go look at this and we go to options, we can see that if we go to edit window scrolling, there's scrolling options that are attached here to how we can scroll. And sometimes it just depends on what you're doing. One of the things that I like to do when I'm editing is have it set to no scrolling. And the reason why is, like, let's say I'm over here working on, and I'm going to use my zoom toggle, something that's going on right here, right? If I have it, at the moment I have it highlighted, and so if I'm in under options, I'm using loop playback, that when I listen to it, it's literally going to just loop back and forth. And so, you watch it, it's just going to go to the end and come back around again. But oftentimes when I'm done with that edit, I want to hear it play through, and I want to know, okay, what does it sound like? Well, I don't always want my scrolling to happen automatically because I still want to see what's happening. So let's say I, this crossfade wasn't here, and I push play and I want to audition it without the crossfade. I'm going to go listen to it. And I'm like, oh, great, I want to, I do need to change this or maybe adjust it. If the page had scrolled, it would annoy me because I have to scroll back to get here. So oftentimes when I'm editing, I leave it at no scrolling. But there are times where I really do want to see it move around. And there's a couple options. You can do it after playback. You can do it with or page by page or continuously. Personally, I find that page is the best. It's not annoying. Watch it. Here's what it does. So it's basically going to give me that same window of space and keep chunking it over as we go. But what's cool about that is it means that, like, when I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, stop. Like, if I'm going to something that I want to change, I can essentially go look at it. And the problem with, there is another option here where it's continuous, and the playhead will always stay center. But this one kind of drives me bonkers because if you're zoomed in too tight, this really just messes with your eyes. It's kind of hard to focus. I mean, if you were way out, that's fine. Okay, yeah, we're moving. That's great. But when you're in, it's like, oh, this thing's just moving too fast, and it's not fun to watch. And so I think that's what makes it a bit tough, when we're looking at it that way. So, yeah, that's it. Those are your scrolling options.